Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome. I'm Shazia joining you on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. I'm really excited to have you all join me today for a discussion on topics related to nutrition and well-being, which I hope will serve you, your families, those that you influence with better health and well-being. So as always, and before I get into the topic of the day, I want to remind listeners that all the information that I share on the show is general in nature. For anyone with any medical issues, whether they be related to what I speak about today or otherwise, please be sure to seek in with your own general practitioner for tailored medical advice. Remember, they're there to help you, they're there to serve you, and they're the ones who will give you that kind of foundational care that you really need. So, today I'd like to talk about eating for energy. Now, energy or lack of energy is a really big one. It's something that we see across the board as practitioners. We experience it ourselves. I've been witness to it with my family as well. And it's just something that tends to make everyday conversation. I mean, how many people do you know or can you relate to where the conversation has been, how are you today? I'm just so tired. I just need to go to sleep. I'm just shattered. The words are endless. It just seems to be kind of the line that's on everyone's tongue, isn't it? It's kind of like it seems to be the most obvious thing in our lives. So, needless to say, it's something that really does need to be addressed. Like I said, in practice, I don't think there's any client that I haven't seen so far that doesn't have a symptom of tiredness or fatigue. So I think, it's something that we really do need to look at. And I do also believe that it's not as simple as it seems. There may be underlying issues or complications as such that need really well investigation. So it's not a case of, I can do these simple things and my fatigue will disappear. No, these are going to be tips today that are going to help with starting to manage that fatigue and tiredness, but that doesn't exclude the requisite to go and seek further and medical support and even work with a practitioner such as a nutritional practitioner, because remember, all of these combinations, all these services in combination are really going to support you. So what is tiredness and fatigue? What's the kind of definition? Is there a definition? Is there something that we can kind of start to kind of recognize and then start to talk about? Well, I was doing my research about what tiredness and fatigue are, and even to myself I had to ask the question, are they the same thing? Now I'm going to go into this a little bit later, but it's really important to understand. So looking for definitions then, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE, that's the abbreviation, they describe tiredness and fatigue on their page as: there is no universal definition of tiredness stroke fatigue, and its experience and perception are subjective. Okay, so this is a definition by two people, and this goes back to 2015. Other definitions are a sensation of exhaustion during or after usual activities, or a feeling of inadequate energy to begin these activities. An older definition, that one. A lack of energy, feeling weak, or being too tired to participate in family, work, or leisure activities. Again, that's a more recent definition. And then just to finish off with one more, an unpleasant physical, cognitive and emotional symptom described as a tiredness not relieved by common strategies that restore energy. It varies in duration and intensity and reduces the ability to perform usual daily activities. And that's the most recent definition. So you can see that, the common themes that are coming out of these particular terms, and it's that kind of just inadequacy to kind of do the things you want to do, whether they be daily chores or whether it be more sort of energetic things, additional things like maybe participating in physical activity, getting out with friends, and you just kind of really do feel like that's just not your space at the time. So these words are being used interchangeably here, quite loosely, and there is a difference, and I think it's important to understand that there's a difference and to then question yourself about whether or not there needs to be more work done to kind of establishing what you can do to try and deal with these particular complaints. So again, looking online, doing my research, what I came to understand is that they are two separate issues. And tiredness effectively is kind of a milder version of fatigue. So tiredness is like when you've had a hard day at work, for example, whether you're working as a teacher, for example, and you've had a really rowdy class who's, really kind of sucked on your energy that day. You've kind of been shouting at them all day, trying to get some order, trying to get that material covered. Whether you've just had deadlines to meet that are just kind of looming over you, whether, you're preparing for exams the next day and you're just not getting the topics and you're just kind of like holding yourself up. Whatever it may be, on a short-term basis, you can kind of think of that as tiredness, because you'll sleep it out and you'll feel energized for the next day or maybe even the day after. So what we're kind of seeing is like an acute situation. It's not something that's prolonged. Okay, so it's like there's a fix for it inevitably, and that could be just taking a break, having a good night's sleep, taking a shower, relaxing your body and your mind, whatever it may be that works for you. That's kind of where tiredness comes into it. Again, I'm not providing medical advice. It's just to kind of try and focus on these terms, which will then help you to identify if you need to get further support and whether, you're struggling with this as a symptom and things are just not working for you despite making changes. Okay, so on the back of that then, fatigue, as I mentioned, is kind of a more chronic version. It's something that's kind of, you're facing it day in, day out. Okay, and it doesn't matter how many times you're going to have a shower and relax in the bath or, do those downtime activities, endless hours of sleep, 10 hours if you're lucky enough to get that anyway. You just don't recover. You're kind of in that constant lag. You're in that kind of zoned out phase, and you just can't face the day ahead. So this is more what we could describe fatigue as. And even the simplest of tasks become monstrous. You just don't want to face them, whether it's just getting out of bed for the day ahead. And this is something that really does need to be looked at further. And this is where I would advise that if you are in that situation, to always seek out medical advice, to find out that there isn't an underlying reason, an underlying cause or causes that may be contributing to this fatigue. We've seen a lot of cases of fatigue in clinic as practitioners post-COVID, and this is something that we are kind of being faced with, ourselves, because we're not immune, pun intended, but even in our clients, we are seeing this as a difficulty that's being presented in greater numbers. So, seek out support. This is not normal. It's something that, can be managed if you get the support and the help that you need. So again, focusing on your individual body, you will know what's normal for you. And, in nutrition, we always work to optimize health. So that means that even if you've always been able to do the activities that you plan, after work, for example, you're still beaming with energy and you're able to go out for a meal and, or go to the gym or whatever it might be, you can always up that level. It's always about upping your situation to a greater level. It's always working up to a higher level. So, that's individual again, and that's where you would probably want to work with someone to help you. But, it's always about kind of questioning the symptoms that you have, because, there is going to be an explanation, even if that takes time to find. So that's the kind of the two kind of key ideas to kind of understand and grasp, so that you can start then working on your body and trying to get to the kind of the underlying factors that may be contributing to the issues that you're experiencing. So how bad are these symptoms? What are we actually trying to how can we gauge the kind of the extent of these problems? So last year in 2023, an Aberdeen general practitioner explained from her research that 5 to 7% of people who go to see their family general practitioner, their family doctor, will complain about fatigue. That's a huge percentage. If you think about the number of appointments we have every year, 5 to 7% is actually a massive number. And remember, not everyone will go to their GP. So, we don't know how many cases, this actually could be if we were to kind of tabulate all of these numbers accurately. And she said that this is the tip of the iceberg. So you can see that it's a bigger problem than is actually being presented in the data. And you can also see why this is going to have not only a social impact. So, if you're tired, you're not going to be doing your duties as an employee, as a spouse, as a partner, as a parent, as a son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, whatever your roles in life may be. That's going to take a social toll. And, there's going to be an economical toll as well. So, if you're tired and to the point where you can't get yourself out of bed in the morning, you're not going to be able to go to work. And even if you are at work, you might be falling asleep at your desk. So your performance isn't really on par. So these are all things that, we need to kind of understand and take note of, because these are serious issues. We are not living a tired society. We need to be energized. We need to be providing our skills and our, expertise to the fullest. We need to be living life to the fullest, and this is just not going to help us. So you can imagine the impact on a far bigger scale, from social aspects to the economical aspects. It's a huge problem. So, as I mentioned, there may be lots of things that need to be investigated. So, if you were to see a doctor, they may well do lots of blood tests and see what's going on, which is really useful. It's useful to us as nutritional practitioners as well, because we do look at this data. It's very informative. It's like having a piece of a greater puzzle. So that data is very, very useful. Things that we look at also, or I would look at in my clinic, and these are not exhaustive, it's just to give you an idea, is how you're sleeping, your hydration levels, are you drinking enough? Because, dehydration can result in fatigue, tiredness on a shorter term level, stress levels, nutrient deficiencies. Is there blood sugar balancing happening in your day-to-day diet? I've talked a lot about blood sugar balancing on previous shows. There may be system imbalances like the thyroid, immune system dysregulation. There may be adverse effects from medication. This is where you need to go and speak to your doctor if you suspect that there's a link. Social circumstances, as I mentioned, situations that you may be in. The pandemic was a classic. Living costs going up. How many people are stressed and just tired of the day-to-day worry and struggle making their ends meet. The job that you may be in may be stressful. Relationships. How many people are struggling with just, maintaining a relationship, let alone trying to, making it thrive. Lack of exercise. All these issues and many, many more can be reasons why you are facing symptoms such as tiredness and fatigue. And, each person needs an individual assessment. We're all different. We all have different tolerance levels. We're all resilient in different ways, to different, levels as well. It's about finding what you're able to cope with and then work to improve on what may not be working. And this is where your nutritional therapist can work alongside your general practitioner and come up with a plan that's tailored to you. And I would always advise to do as much reading as you can, speak to your doctor in the first instance, and then seek out the complementary therapies that can help. Nutrition is great, but there are other complementary therapies that can also be beneficial. Seek them out, do your research, and see what can work with you. I'm not really going to go into the detail about all these other lifestyle kind of factors and social factors, can actually how and they can contribute, and why we know that that's the case, because it could be a whole new show on its own. But I'm going to focus on the food aspect. So does food have a role to play in tiredness and fatigue? Yes, it does. And what I want to try and focus on, as my role is a nutritional therapist, is to kind of just bring that information back home. And many of you will know this already, so it's not going to be new information. It's going to be what you've probably heard many, many times over. So it's going to be a bit of a recap for many of you. If you're hearing it for the first time, that's great. It's never too late to make positive change. So it's going to be about focusing on the food. And in nutritional therapy, the beauty is that it's about food. I was speaking to a client just before I came in to record this show, and he was amazed because, he was talking about supplements, and he was talking about all these other, tools, so to speak, that we have when we work with our clients. And I said, look, it's actually just getting down to the food that we eat, because all of us eat. So it's a universal thing. Therefore, it makes sense that all of us learn about food and how it can benefit us, and also how it can perhaps, leave us in a state of not such good health. So, there are aspects to food, and by all means, food is going to be the first thing to go to when you want to start to improve your health, because food is actually a source of those nutrients that our body needs to be able to function. There are hundreds and thousands of chemical reactions that are happening in our body, all the time. So these reactions that are taking place, so if you've studied a little bit of biology, a bit of chemistry, biochemistry, whatever it may be in the science areas, you'll know that we need nutrients that are going to support our body to be able for it to do its job to its best. Now, if we have got minimal nutrients, your body's going to function to that level. If you're optimizing your nutrient intake, then you're giving your body that extra that it needs to function at that level. So you're obviously going to be performing better. You're going to be feeling better compared to the person who's probably not eating as well. And if you're depleted and, nutrient deficient, then you can understand why your body's going to be calling out to you saying, look, I need help. Every time we're experiencing a symptom, your body's trying to give you a message. It's saying, I need help. Many chronic diseases will present themselves as symptoms when the body's actually got to a really late stage of deficiency or imbalance or dysfunction, whatever it may be. So, this has been happening over a long time. The body's been compensating. It's incredible, the learning that you have when you study the human body and continue to do so in fields like nutritional medicine. You never cease to be amazed, because the body is so resilient. It's designed to heal itself. It's designed to face that kind of onslaught, so to speak, whatever that may be, to the extent that it can, and it exhausts itself doing that with the kind of resources it has, and until it starts to call out for help and says, look, I need help from you now. And these are wake-up calls for us. And rather than wait till you're sick, why not get your body into a state where you're preventing sickness, first of all, and living the life that you really want to live? I don't think there's any one of us who doesn't want to live their best life. I just don't believe that that's, possible. I believe everyone has something to share. Everyone has a skill to utilize, to share with the world, as part of their existence. And I think, we underserve ourselves first and foremost if we don't look after our bodies. And remember, even in our faith, our body is an amana, it's a trust. It's been given to us as a gift, and we'll be questioned about our body. So, we need to take account of ourselves before we are accounted for. We know this from our faith, and you can see how it fits so beautifully with the concept of, good eating, health and well-being. Okay, so as I mentioned then, so this is going to be a focus on foods that can support with us getting the nutrition that we need to then tackle symptoms like tiredness, like fatigue. So, it's not just about kind of saying, I'm going to take a supplement or I'm going to take a pill and I'm going to feel better. There may be reasons why you need supplements and why you need pills. Again, following assessment and being seen by an appropriate practitioner. But, that comes as part of that package. It's the first step that you need to take is to, first of all, acknowledge that there's a problem, go and speak to someone about that problem, and then start to put changes into place. Okay, so, it's going to be a whole package. And, in nutrition, as I've mentioned before, food comes first. We look at supplementation that's targeted to the individual and according to their needs and their means. And supplementation is just that. It's supplements. It goes alongside, it helps, it supports what you're already doing from a food perspective. It's not meant to be there to replace. These supplements are not food pills. They are there to support you. And then, you need to be careful what you use as supplements, because, supplements are not free of adverse sort of outcomes. There can be interactions. So again, this is where you'd want to work with a professional to make sure that you're getting the best of all kind of aspects of the kind of options that you have. So lifestyle, as I mentioned, is the other one, as well as the testing that we have access to. So we can do comprehensive testing for various different symptoms, various different imbalances, to kind of get the data for what might be going on, whether that be a stool test, whether that be a breath test, if we're suspecting infections in the gut, for example, whether we want to look at cardiac function, whether we want to look at thyroid health. These are comprehensive. There will be additional markers in there that will look at slightly more than what your GP would look at, but they're complementary. We look at those alongside the blood test results that you have from your GP. Okay, so food. Okay, so Hippocrates told us this. He was the well-known, esteemed Western physician that said, "Let food be thy medicine." What does that mean? Food first. Food is being used as your kind of go-to to help support your body with not just maintaining it, but optimizing it as well. So I said this before, depending on where you are, where you want to go, food is not just, something that we kind of consume to keep ourselves alive and for pleasure, etc., a social thing. It's actually a fuel. You wouldn't want to put petrol into a diesel car. You want to be able to focus on what you're actually doing, so that the performance that results as a consequence of your action is going to be what you really want to kind of be achieving, and you want to be kind of manifesting day to day. Okay, so in terms of foods then, foods and how they support the body in kind of preventing or kind of minimizing or kind of keeping you away from symptoms like fatigue and tiredness are going to be like one of the key areas that you can look at. Now, if you've studied up to GCSE biology or even further, you will know that our bodies will utilize the food that we consume to generate energy. So all our body activities require some level of energy. So, when we're moving around, when we're exercising, when we're engaging in sport, whether we're kind of, going for a walk, whether we're, whatever it may be, there's going to be some utilization of energy. So that energy is going to be coming from somewhere. It's going to be coming from the food that we're consuming. So our body is actually processing that food and generating this energy. So it goes without saying then that what we put in is going to help support that energy production, or it's going to kind of dampen it depending on our choices. And that is what we're seeing in a lot of clients who present to clinic. We can see that people who don't eat so well, they probably have a higher incidence of fatigue-related symptoms or of that nature than those people who are more clean eating. And I say that with a very general kind of brush. It's not as simple as that, but you will see that as a generalization in people. And, I know when I didn't used to eat so well, I was feeling tired all the time. This term that we have an abbreviation for, TAT, tired all the time. Now, this is something that, is understandable from that energy perspective, because if you think about what our food is doing, it's being broken down into individual units. So remember, our vitamins, our minerals, antioxidants, all sorts of other nutrients that we need that are coming from those food options that we're choosing to put into our bodies. Those nutrients are being utilized by the cells. Now, in each cell, we have these organelles, that means little subunits in the cell, called mitochondria. So a lot of people will probably recognize what these are. I mean, it's a very big area of research and a pretty hot topic actually in the anti-aging medicine arena. So these mitochondria are tiny little organelles, as we call them, inside of a cell. And this is where the energy is generated. Okay, so you can think of these as your powerhouses. So what you need to be doing is you need to be thinking, I need to fuel those powerhouses with good fuel. Okay, you want these mitochondria protected, healthy, blooming. You want to look after your mitochondria if you want to look after your energetic self. Okay, so, and this is, like I say, one arm of the whole story. It's not going to be the whole thing. This is one area that is a really good place to look at, and this is what I would do in my clinic. So now these mitochondria are going to require nutrients, and the nutrients are going to come from your food. So you can understand why now, when you eat well, your mitochondria are getting the nutrients that they need to therefore generate that energy, and to a level that allows you not just to kind of survive, but to thrive as well. Okay, so that's what you want to be focusing on, and that's kind of where that energy kind of is being, kind of is that's the focus. That's where it's coming from. So when you've got that understanding, you can now try and see why it's important to eat well, because you're serving purpose, you're serving a need. And when these mitochondria are depleted of nutrients, you can see that they're not going to really perform to their best. That powerhouse is just not going to fire up in the same way as it would do if you were, eating really well most of the time. And remember, it's not about going down an extreme route. It's about trying to eat well most of the time. And obviously, depending on how you want to perform, you make that ratio even wider. So you want to go, maybe I talk to my clients about doing 80-20, and then there are people who want to do 90-10, and that's individual to you. So there's a lot there about kind of what fatigue was, what tiredness is, understanding what they are and how they're impacting us as individuals, as communities, and even on a greater scale. And I've also talked about how different factors can play into this, and basically, a little bit about the biology and the biochemistry about energy, which I think is good to understand. So what I'll do then, before I stop to go into the break, is I'll kind of mention that when we come back, I'll talk more about the foods that you can focus on. So a lot of this, like I said, will be revision. It's nothing overly new. The focus is going to be on nutrient dense foods and cleaning up your diet. So it's not anything overly scientific. It's kind of there to get you started, if you haven't already, on kind of focusing on what's going to benefit you and is what's not going to benefit you effectively. So you're listening to me, Shazia, on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. Back with you shortly. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Nutrition Show. You're joining me, Shazia, on Unity FM 93.5 FM. So before the break, I was talking about tiredness, fatigue, factors that could be contributing to these symptoms, the impact of these symptoms, to from an individual to a possibly even a global level. I mean, if you look at the stats, they are kind of, they're significant enough to be worried about. Looking at sort of how, the nutrients affect our body in terms of where they're actually utilized and why we need to be worried about what we're putting into our bodies. And what I want to do for the last half of the show is just kind of revise, for many of you, the food groups or the food types that you can try and incorporate to support your mitochondria, to support these powerhouses that are working endlessly for us to have that energy to do all the things that we want to do, and and to kind of get to a better level. So just before I dive into that, then I want to just kind of reiterate that none of this information is medical advice. I'm not a doctor. It's there for information. It's there to empower you and educate you like I do for myself. It's there to kind of make you want to look into what's available for yourself, for your families, take it on board, discuss it with your doctor, then and follow up with convention, sort of the additional, kind of resources that you have in the complementary field as well. And it's kind of taking the benefit of all of those things in a very responsible way. Okay, so any health concerns, anything like that, anything of that nature that does come up, you should always speak to your medical doctor, because they will know you best, and they'll be able to support you on that foundational level. So in terms of the foods then, what should you really be looking at, or what could you incorporate if you're not doing it already, to try and support your health from an energy perspective? So these foods are not exhaustive as a list, and they're not for anything in particular, but they're there to support you in terms of getting those nutrients into your body. So remember, those mitochondria are going to be requiring a whole load of nutrients, and these are going to be the micronutrients as well. So it's not just your vitamins, it's your minerals as well. So you want to be ensuring that your diet is kind of providing your body with these nutrients. Okay, so everyone is different, and when it comes to food, when I work with my clients, I take into account things like allergies, intolerances, preferences, all these kinds of things. But obviously you'll need to gauge that for yourself when you're looking at this for yourself. When you're working with a practitioner, they can help you with that. But, bearing in mind that these are areas to kind of consider before you introduce a food group. Obviously, we're never going to know what we're kind of intolerant to until perhaps we've tried it for the first time, or maybe we do know because of an unfortunate incident. But you'll know your body best. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you're going to have to look into these foods, with a pinch of salt, so to speak, and see what works for your body. Okay, so these are foods as well as, kind of the liquid aspect of your diet as well. So the first and foremost thing that I want to speak about is water. So you want to be, looking at your body in terms of its hydration levels. Are you getting enough water? Dehydration can cause tiredness. Remember, we have a lot of water in our body. Water is making up, the kind of the liquid within our cells. This is where the reactions are happening. You want to be getting adequate levels of water in your body. So is it 8 glasses of water a day for everyone? Well, from my experience, no. Even though, a lot of people say, yeah, that's kind of where you need to be working towards. I think you need to look at where you are, and generally you need to increase. That's what we find, depending on your individual body and your medical circumstances. So if you are on water restriction for whatever reason, then you need to work with your doctor to kind of ascertain what your maximum levels of water are. But otherwise, I find in my practice that people generally are dehydrated. They're not drinking enough, and I am kind of guilty of that too. So staying dehydrated is going to be optimal for your mental performance. You're going to feel more clarity if you're hydrated. You're going to have the energy to do the tasks that you need to do, and if you're active, if you're one of those kind of people who are quite physically sort of active, so to speak, you're exercising quite a lot, then your levels will be higher than someone, say for example, who sits at an office desk all day and isn't so active. So it does depend on the body. You will have signs of dehydration. Our urine is very concentrated and dark in colour in the morning, because that's the idea. Your kidneys have concentrated that urine so you're able to sleep undisturbed. But during the day, your urine should be a nice clear straw colour. So if you're finding that your urine is still a dark colour during the day, that could be a reason why that's what you're seeing, because you're not drinking enough. So that's something to really work on, and you'll find that will make a huge difference. It's a very small change, but you need to be consistent, and you'll notice the difference. Never drink large amounts of water at one sitting. You don't want to be going into sort of hypertension or any hypotension or anything like that. You want to be splitting your water intake throughout the day. and hydrating your body. Okay, I think it's in the winter time as well. You don't really want to drink as much, but it's something that you need to remind yourself of, and you can do that in various ways. Okay, so that's a really key one. On the back of that, think about how you can do that. So teas are a great example. Herbal teas, the naturally caffeine-free ones are brilliant. Find what you like. Chamomile's great. I like peppermint. Ginger's nice as well. Find flavors that will suit you, that you can incorporate on a day-to-day basis to help you get that water in. Green tea is amazing. We know lots of benefits for green tea. We know compounds in green tea have been linked to lots of different benefits in health. I mean, you can have a read on that. There's quite a lot of information online. Green tea is a definite one that I would recommend for most people to try and incorporate as a preference, because it does have a lot of benefits to give you. And it's so easily and readily available. Why is it that we can't, just simply pick up some green tea on our next shopping trip? Organic is always better with teas because they tend to be heavily sprayed. It's an investment, you want to if you're going to have a nice cup of tea, make it a nice quality one. So green tea and the others on the back of that, whatever suits you, try and build in, different ways to kind of increase your water intake. And you can even make flavored waters, as I've mentioned before. Lots of recipes online to kind of help you along the way. So when I talk about fluids, I'm not talking about things like pop or sugary drinks, things like of that nature. Coffee is a debatable one. I think that is something that I would work with on an individual basis. But otherwise, you want to be steering away from the sugary, coloured, unnatural sort of beverages out there, and you need to kind of educate yourself on that and see and look into the reasons why this is a recommendation. You want to go natural. You want to go down the route that your body is actually going to be able to benefit from what you're putting into your mouth, rather than saying, goodness, what is this that I've just had loaded into me and isn't serving you, and maybe being one of the factors that is actually causing your health to deteriorate. Okay, so that's a key one that everyone could benefit from. So the next one I want to kind of mention is your vegetables. So vegetables are full of all sorts of amazing nutrients. You're going to get your vitamins, minerals, fibers. There's so much benefit from vegetables, and vegetables I say as a preference over fruit, because you're not getting as much of the sugar, even though fruits have their benefit as well. And I'm going to come to fruit shortly anyway. So you want to think about leafy greens. So when I'm talking about leafy greens, think about spinach, think about kale, spring greens, cabbage, watercress. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate these leafy greens, and you want to try and get a mixture in, so you're getting the benefit of each type, and you want to find ways to incorporate them that isn't going to be something that you try once and think, I'm never going to try that again. Because for me personally, I found leafy greens a difficult one to incorporate. So I try and find ways to do that, whether I have to mask them. So whether I'm doing a smoothie, for example, or whether I'm kind of steaming them or putting them into a soup, you've got to find clever ways to incorporate them into your diet. But these will be very, very beneficial, because you've got magnesium in there. Magnesium is an amazing source to support with energy. It's going to help you with getting that nutrition that you actually need. You're going to feel a lot of difference. Think about green smoothies. So many recipes online, focusing on those vegetables over the fruit. Okay, so add in a piece of fruit, it's not a problem, but you want to go vegetable heavy. You're getting your potassium, and as I mentioned, your vitamins are going to be coming from your greens as well. Okay, so think about variety, think about the rainbow, the different colors. In addition to these greens, other colors are going to give you other benefits, but you want to try and get as many colors in on a daily basis, and you want to sort of make them part and parcel of your day-to-day nutrition, whether you need to kind of cook them a certain way, you need to kind of add spices or herbs to them, whatever it is that makes you kind of more accepting of those on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so on the back of that, then fruits are also a good food option for improving energy. And again, variety is key. Think about fruits as the easiest way to kind of support your energy, if you like, because they tend to be the easiest of foods to kind of consume and incorporate into someone's diet. I find that fruits are always very easy, but you've got to be careful that you're not overdoing the sugars. So if you are consuming fruits on their own, think about using or combining those with a protein and or fat source. So remember, we talk about blood sugar balancing. We don't just want a spike of sugars. We want to consume fruit alongside one of these other options of food. So you want to do a protein and or fat, and you want to consume fruit in its natural form. You don't want to sort of be doing juices and things like that unless you're doing something very specific under the instruction of someone. But you want to be doing like an orange, for example. You want to be peeling and eating the orange straight from once you've peeled it. You don't want to be kind of juicing that orange necessarily, because you want it in its whole form. Okay, so you want to be kind of having that fruit in the way nature intended. Now, that doesn't mean you can't put it into a smoothie or a salad or anything like that. Smoothie in particular, because you're processing it to some extent, but you want to be sort of getting the benefit of the fruit without spiking your blood sugars. And some examples of fruits that are really useful could be citrus, like oranges. Yeah, so think about the vitamin C that you might get from them. You want to sort of think about the fiber content as well, especially when you're eating them whole. Bananas are great. You're going to get your potassium boost from bananas. You got a good source of carbohydrates from them as well. Lots of vitamins as well. Apples are amazing. If you can, you should always eat them with the skin on. So that's why we go organic for apples, because you're going to get a lot of benefit from the skin as well as the fruit itself. High in fiber, lots of energy. You can add them to, you can grate them over your porridge in the morning. You can have them as part of a salad. We have them on a daily basis. I know, we're missing something when there are no apples at home. They're just a great way to add nutrients to your food. And then you can also think about berries as well, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. All of these are lower in sugar, and they're powerhouses of nutrients. So you want to pack these in, all the different colours that you can consume. Again, organic if you can, because they're quite heavily sprayed. You want to kind of get the benefit of those antioxidants. Every colour confers its own benefit, and you want to be getting them in on a regular basis. Great for smoothies, great for snacking, great for adding to salads. You can't go wrong with berries. They're a great option for children. Rather than giving them a packet of sweets or gummies or whatever, we see oftentimes, give them some berries to have instead, and get their palate, on the right path, if you like, from the beginning. I know I've got a family member who does that with her toddler. She will go for strawberries, and she's very happy. She's a very content kid. God bless her. She will always go for the berries, and it's nice to see that people are thinking about this, as a kind of a good habit to set early on. Okay, so you can also think about things like nuts and seeds. Again, you need to look at your own tolerance, allergies, etc. But these, again, are very loaded in nutrients. So your healthy fats can be coming from nuts and seeds. So think about things like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. Flax is great. Lots of healthy fats are coming from these. Protein as well, fiber. You can add these straight into a smoothie, for example. You can top them onto your porridge. You can bake with them. So many things that you can do, and it's such an easy way to incorporate into your diet. Some really good nutrient dense foods. You can also add in nuts as well. So you can go for things like walnuts. You can do almonds. Again, healthy fats are going to be coming from these as well, providing you with a kind of this sustained energy rather than these kind of a boost and crashes. So these are going to be foods that are going to give you that kind of slow release energy. So, you might eat well, but then you might find that you're crashing. So it could be that you're eating foods that are perhaps like fruits, for example, but just fruits on their own and not balancing them with anything else. So you haven't actually had something, that's not good for your health. It's just that you haven't combined it well with something. But if you have, like, say, for example, a small portion of nuts as a snack, if you need to have a snack, for example, in the day, that's a really good way to kind of satisfy that craving and also have had something beneficial as opposed to something that's kind of highly processed. I used to do it. I used to have like a few nuts with a piece of dark chocolate, and that was my snack. And I do that quite regularly. Stock up with these kinds of foods in your home, so they're easy to go to, and what you're going to have is what you're going to eat, especially if you can't get out on the day. So it's kind of thinking about how you can stop yourself eating the foods that aren't so great for you. So it's such an easy way to kind of satisfy that craving, manage your blood sugar, and also have a bit of a treat because you've put some chocolate in there. And dark chocolate is what we kind of go for. So 70% upwards. I mean, if you can do 100, you're amazing. I've done it, it's amazing, but it's not for everyone. So work from about 70% upwards. If you're on the sugary stuff, you're on a journey, that's okay. Start making that transition. You'll notice the difference, and believe me, you won't go back. Once you've made that transition, you'll know the difference in what you're consuming. Okay, so these kinds of foods are going to give you manganese, copper, and these are, like I say, the kind of the minerals that are required in tiny amounts to get those those powerhouses working really well. Okay, so add nuts and seeds to, like I said, smoothies. Top them on your cereal. You can add them in your baking. You can have them as a snack. You can do so much with them. They're so versatile. Okay, so just before I continue, I just want to say that the information that I'm sharing on today's show is very general in nature, does not constitute medical advice at all. It's there to give you ideas, to get you thinking about what you can utilize if you're not using it already. It's about kind of exploring and really getting to the bottom of the symptoms that you're experiencing and looking at the why, and working on it from a personal level, and then seeking that support. Your doctor's there for that. It's always worthwhile having that chat, especially if you've been suffering for a long time. There's no need to suffer. There's always a reason why you're experiencing what you are, and they're there to help you. And then you can also seek out the additional support from people like myself, nutritional therapists, who work to kind of get you to that higher level once that basic is kind of established. That basis is established. Okay, so what else could be beneficial? So this is one of my favorites, avocados. Okay, so these are nutrient jam-packed. I have them as a snack. I have them in a smoothie. I have them in a salad. They are so versatile. I don't know whether I could put something above that. For me personally, I just love them, especially when they're ripe and ready to go. And you've got your unsaturated fats. You're getting, satisfaction from, fueling yourself if you're having a bit of a craving. Lots of fiber. They will provide that kind of sustained energy. Again, like nuts, so they're not giving you the spikes and crashes. So rather than reaching out for a chocolate bar, an avocado is great. Just salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil. That's what I normally do. Lemon juice. It's so nice as just a snack on its own. You can, if you've got lots of ripe avocados, why not smash them up and make some homemade guacamole? Great on toast. If you want to combine with some fish. Really nice. So there's lots that you can do. I really do think avocados are amazingly versatile. Quite moody as well sometimes, but it's another staple that I think everyone should have in their kitchen. A nice easy one, eggs. So eggs are great, whether you boil them, whether you're kind of making something on the softer side. Poaching is great. Eggs are such amazing sources of protein, lots of B vitamins. You want to really be doing eggs if you can tolerate them as a regular food source. In general, obviously, I don't know your background, whether or not it's suitable for you, but it's something that I include on a regular basis, and I do tend to do that for my clients as well, depending on what their preferences are, what their individual circumstances are. They're a great way to kind of keep you fueled. I find that when I have eggs for breakfast, I'm not hungry until way late in the day, and it helps me to get to my 2 meals a day sometimes when I'm being kind of prepared for the day and I'm not having a crash. But eggs are an amazing way to get protein into your diet, and I think it's another easy one that we can all incorporate. Think peas, beans, lentils, your legumes. These are all amazing little, packets of energy for you. Great source of complex carbs. So you don't want to be going for the refined stuff. You want to be going for the complex carbs, which, allow that kind of steady state of energy rather than those peaks and crashes that we see otherwise. Chickpeas are a very popular one. So versatile. I mean, I make my own burgers from chickpeas, so you can season them as you like. So easy. I mean, you can even use the air fryer, so you can make them into balls and put them into the air fryer. Such an easy way to have like a really fulfilling meal, with a salad on the side. Such a nice, easy, light way to eat. Lentils can go into soups and stews. You can have them. You can even do lentil burgers as well. So there's so much that you can actually do with them. If you want to go and make a dip for yourself, there's lots of different bean dips that you can do. Bean burgers as well. Hummus, you can make at home, very easy to do. You can flavour them up as you want. I mean, I've done things like paprika, chili. You can actually do so many different flavors, so you don't have to get bored of what you're actually doing. So, think of the ways that you can utilize and incorporate legumes into your diet. I mean, what you need to be thinking about when you start to incorporate these is making sure that you soak them well when you need to. So, look up the information about how to soak them if you are cooking them from scratch. Obviously, if you're buying tinned, you don't have the same problems, but you want to be like consuming them so that you're getting the benefit of them rather than getting, into the problems that some of them may cause for some people, especially when there's digestive issues involved. Okay. Oats are great. Obviously, again, looking at tolerances, think about utilizing oats. Amazing nutrient in oats called beta-glucans, which is a type of soluble fiber. Really great for immune benefits. Again, they're slowing down those energy and those kind of spikes in sugar. So, you're getting that kind of that fulfillment, that kind of satisfaction when you have a bowl of oats in the morning, for example. And, think about cooked oats, think about baking with oats, think about overnight oats where you're not cooking anything at all. You're literally mixing things together. So easy. And then you can flavor them in different ways. I mean, I used to do a caramel one with dates. You can do one with berries. You can do one topped with, yogurt. There's so many different options online. So easy. So go with what's easy for you so you can make a start. If you don't fancy the thought of trying to cook oats every morning, I get that. Just try and do something that doesn't involve cooking. And there are many, recipes that you can do that with. And you can even do that with the chia seeds I mentioned if you want to make a chia pudding. No cooking involved. You're literally mixing chia with fluids, whether that be water or milk of your choice, and then flavors. And you're literally sticking it in the fridge overnight, ready to consume in the morning. So it's so easy. We don't really have an excuse not to incorporate them. And obviously, if you're gluten-free, you can go for the gluten-free oatmeal. There are ways and means about incorporating oats into your diet if you're able to do so. Think about things like yogurt, again, depending on your tolerances. Greek yogurt is particularly useful. It can help with kind of post-exercise refueling. It can help boost that protein intake. I know someone who uses Greek yogurt or a version of to boost their protein intake, because there's quite a lot of protein per per gram. So it's a really good way to get that in, and it's providing that that microbiome some good nutrition as well. Dark chocolate, I mentioned it before. Why do you need to feel guilty if you're having a treat? If you're having dark chocolate, it's the way to do it. You've got lots of antioxidants in dark chocolate that are going to be beneficial to health. That doesn't mean you want to eat a bar of it. You want to kind of stick to a moderation, and then utilize the benefits that you can get from it, and satisfy that craving as you're going along. Think about the minerals, the potassium, zinc, selenium, phosphorus, so many very useful nutrients that our body will require. And like I say, you want to be working up to the higher levels of chocolate in terms of chocolate itself rather than the additives. 70 is a good place to start working your way up. 85 is great, still tastes sweet. If you need that sweetness. And then you can always combine. I used to have like a date sometimes with some really, really dark chocolate just to kind of offset the bitterness. And you can really kind of get experimental with what works for you. So there's lots of ideas there. A lot of this is going to be, like I say, revision. It's kind of there to kind of get you to understand that what we're focusing on here is whole food nutrition. Eat like your grandparents, your great-grandparents used to eat. And that's a general term. Obviously, there are different issues that we need to look at today because of the way food has been modified. But that's what you need to be looking for. Look for foods that are nutrient dense. Okay, it's looking for foods that are going to provide you with what the earth has got to give you of its goodness. And it's easily, said because, our palates are kind of very, they're kind of programmed when you've been eating a certain way for so long. And it's about kind of reprogramming that in effect, and that can take time, and there's nothing wrong with being on that journey, slow and steady. But the point is that you recognize that, and you invest in that, and you try to make change for yourself. So start small, start where you're at, and make yourself a plan. Do that for your family, because it's going to pay dividends. The younger you get people started on this, the better, because it's easier to have that change when you're younger than when you're older. But that doesn't mean that you don't start. Whatever age you're at, you need to start somewhere, because it'll serve you in some shape, some means. So I hope that's been beneficial, and I hope that you'll be able to take away some of this information and apply it in your day-to-day life. Always work with your medical practitioner, because they're there to support you. It's not about us working out things on our own and struggling and not getting anywhere. We're here to support as well as nutritional therapists. Always seek out someone who's appropriately qualified and registered. Don't just pick the cheapest person you find online, because this has happened, and there have been problems. Seek and find, and seek and you will find, as they say. That information is readily available. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you thought about the show today. Feedback is always greatly appreciated and received. I'm grateful for another opportunity to connect with you. So this is Shazia on The Nutrition Show on Unity FM, 93.5 FM. I look forward to joining you again soon. Take care until next time. Wassalamu alaikum.